Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast, episode number 89. We're back at the start of a brand new week.
Happy freaking Monday.
Happy freaking Monday. We're here to give you the results and recap of hashtag UFC Vegas 24. Headlined by kind of capping off these last couple weeks of some middleweights, shaking it up.
Middleweight tournament.
Yeah, sort of, kind of, even though both contests had a falling out. But Robert Whittaker,
man,
he solidifies himself as the number one contender for Israel Adesanya with a win over Kelvin Gastelum. We'll talk about that and much more. But first, it's time for the news.
The news.
Starting off hot and heavy here.
Hot and heavy.
This actually should have been in Friday's
It got
episode.
announced as we were recording, so we missed it.
Yeah, so Santiago Ponzinibbio is back, coming off a very tough loss in his, I guess, return bout after a 2-year layoff against Li Jingliang. But now it doesn't get any easier for him. He's going up against the surging prospect, Miguel Baeza. We're huge on Baeza.
Baeza's a beast.
But Ponzinibbio has been there, done that. So what are your thoughts here?
This is going to be a banger. Like, fight of the night potential here. Should it go 3 rounds? I can't wait for this one. Baeza, such a tough prospect coming up right now. Was very active recently. Haven't seen him in a little bit. So this is by far the biggest test for him. Biggest name that he can put on his resume. And for Santiago, like Noah mentioned, the tough loss to Li Jingliang in his return fight. And it doesn't get much easier here against Baeza. That's for damn sure.
No, it really doesn't. Baeza, a very powerful guy.
Man, and crisp, technical.
You got to understand, like, for Ponzinibbio, now he's going to be going up against a guy who is going to be faster, is going to be arguably maybe even more stronger.
This dude's got like one
at this
punch.
point. You know, Ponzinibbio's definitely, in his fight with Jingliang, you noticed the guy wasn't quite who he was in his best.
Right.
Was that because of the long layoff and maybe he's still building himself back up? Potentially. Or, potentially, the best of him has came and went.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. But, you know, Jingliang is not... He's kind of a plotter for that division.
Mm-hmm.
Baeza is not a plotter.
Nah.
Baeza will...
He's coming to bang.
Stick it... Yeah, I mean, he'll stick and move. But at the moment he hurts you, he pounces. You look at that Matt Brown knockout. He dove in with the elbows.
Brutal.
Just disgusting. So Ponzinibbio is going to have his hands full there. But Baeza, it's a big test. And sure, Matt Brown, being the legend he is and the guy who's been in so many wars, a big test.
Yeah.
But Ponzinibbio is, I have more, I guess, I feel less, Matt Brown, I felt for sure, like, okay, his best years are behind him.
Yeah.
Ponzinibbio, I feel like can improve upon what we saw.
I mean, we're talking about a guy that before that layoff and loss to Jingliang was like a top 8 guy and was unbeaten for many, many fights in a row.
Headlined a card.
So, the first ever card in Argentina. Yeah. So, this is a great fight for both guys and very important for 2 opposite reasons.
Yeah, and I failed to mention this is happening on June 5th.
June 5th, fight night. Yep. Week before Figgy Marina.
Moving on. Battle of prospects here.
I mean, he's back, though.
This is exciting. Our boy, Billy Q. Billy Quarantillo going up against Herbert Burns, the brother of Gilbert Burns.
Yes.
Both these guys coming off tough losses.
Yep.
Herbert Burns, man, we haven't talked about him since our very first preview show for UFC 252.
That was his last fight.
In that preview, we predicted him to get a big dub, and he got... Smashed by Daniel Pineda. While Billy Quarantillo, we've kind of been on board with the whole time.
Just had that war with Gavin Tucker.
Yeah, Gavin Tucker, though, really kind of showing that maybe Billy's not quite at the level that we want him to be yet. But this will be a good test for both guys. We know where Herbert Burns' strengths are going to lie. This guy's jiu-jitsu.
An ace.
You're right. That man is what do they call him? Like a buzzsaw when it comes to the ground. While Billy tends to... His striking showed a little bit of holes in it in his last fight with Tucker. But will those same holes pop up against a guy like Herbert Burns?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Overall, I feel like Billy Q has the advantage in the striking. Of course,
I would think so.
Herbert on the ground. Herbert, not as complete of a fighter yet as his brother Gilbert Burns, which is, that's kind of a hard comparison, but you get what I'm saying. So I think this is a very good clash of styles for two prospects that are honestly pretty big names for being prospects. This is a very fun fight, July 17th.
Yep, July 17th. I forgot to mention that again. But that's all for our fight announcements. Now we're on to the rest. Bellator 257 results and recap time.
The Grand Prix goes on.
And you know what? We got 3 fights to talk about here because we're going to start outside of the Grand Prix. Paul Daly and Sabah Hamasi.
Yes, sir.
Threw in their hat for Fight of the Year contender.
Paul Daly always in bangers,
Let's talk about how we just passed the 10-year anniversary of maybe the best one-round fight ever at Strikeforce between Paul Daly and Nick Diaz.
It's true.
So then Daly comes in here against Hamasi. Hamasi looks like he's going to finish Daly early, round 1. Paul comes back, drops Hamasi at the end of round 1. Then in round 2 comes and knocks him out.
Yeah.
Paul Daly, man, still got that power in his hands. Hamasi, a UFC veteran as well.
Yeah.
Both guys showing a high-level fight in Bellator. It was fun.
And like Noah mentioned, Daly been doing this stuff for years and years and years at this point. A true veteran of the fight game. Always in fun fights, and he showed it again here at Bellator 257.
Yep, 257. Our co-main event, though, this is where we get into the Grand Prix results.
Grand Prix.
As you guys know, just kind of updating, we started with eight guys.
Yep. Bader defeats Machida.
Bader defeats Machida. So then this fight here, Corey Anderson getting the TKO win over Dovletazan Yakhshimuradov.
Absolutely perfect.
I feel like it's not, but I
Chef's
appreciate
kiss.
it.
Hey, Corey Anderson now 2-0 in
Corey
Bellator.
Anderson 2-0, both via finish as well.
Yeah.
Finishes Dovletazan via TKO in the 3rd round, 2 minutes 15 seconds in. That means Corey Anderson will be facing Ryan Bader in the semifinals.
It's a good fight too, man.
It is. 2 guys that didn't fight each other
never
in the
had
UFC,
their paths
even
cross.
though, when Bader was kind of hanging around the top.
It's kind of when Corey was starting to emerge into.
Yeah, Corey Anderson, Ultimate Fighter winner.
Yeah.
Came in with a lot of, what we call it, a lot of praise. I guess
a lot of buzz.
Yeah, a lot of buzz. He was very much highly touted right away, being given high-profile matchups.
Always fought the toughest dudes.
While Bader really was, him and John Jones came up at the same time, and John Jones kind of made easy work of him. So therefore, it was always like Bader was kind of a step below, the top guys. So it'll be really interesting to see how these guys match up at light heavyweight. Bader's been bouncing around for a while. Corey Anderson has so far looked really good.
Yeah, man.
In his Bellator career. I would say, though, that I think the step, going up and fighting Bader, I think is a huge step up from Dovletazan and who he fought before.
Oh, for sure. By the way, shout out to Bellator for them sick white gloves they're doing for the Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. Ooh, those are nasty.
Yeah, they're very clean.
But yeah, shout out Corey Anderson, of course, too.
And we had a title fight.
We did.
The light heavyweight belt was on the line. Vadim Nemkov, in his rematch with Phil Davis, gets the unanimous decision win. Closer than probably the fight really was, at least in the scorecards. 48-47 on all 3 judges' scorecards. This fight was a bit of a dud,
yeah, like you kind of mentioned before we started recording, Nemkov, rounds 1 and 2 kind of showed just the levels he was ahead.
Just was striking circles around Phil Davis.
And then the rounds 3, 4, 5 potentially just slows down a little bit, coasts to get the win, Nothing wrong with it, but this guy's a straight killer. We saw what he did to Bader to win the belt. And now, buddy, who's he take on next?
He's got the winner of Anthony Johnson and Yoel Romero, a fight that's
May
happening
7th.
2 weeks from now, right?
Yes.
So be on the lookout for that because Nemkov will be defending his title, so potentially one of those 2 newcomers to Bellator could become light heavyweight champion in their second Bellator fight.
Yeah, and if Nemkov can beat a guy like Romero or Rumble, my goodness. I mean, this guy's a savage kickboxer, very crisp techniques. It's going to be an interesting matchup no matter which one of those guys comes out on top, but holy shit, we're 2 weeks away from Rumble.
And a lot of the talk I'm hearing, a lot of people I think, are sleeping on the, I'll call it the left side of this bracket that now is filled with Bader versus Anderson.
Yeah.
It really does seem like everybody thinks whoever comes out of this other side is going to be the winner. Like, the real finals is kind of Vadim Nemkov versus the winner of Romero Johnson.
Yeah.
I think people need to slow down on that. I know Nemkov really did make easy work of Bader the first time they fought, but I would not expect Bader to go down so easy the second time.
Yeah, for sure.
Corey Anderson, really, we don't know what his ceiling is in Bellator. And then, obviously, Nemkov, if he kind of coasts like he did a little bit here against Davis, don't be surprised if Romero or Johnson give him some fits.
Oh, yeah, they won't allow that type of pacing, those two guys. So.
But overall, I think Bellator really came out swinging with this card, 257.
Oh, yeah, man. This Grand Prix really gave a lot of life to Bellator. On top of all the other great fights they're doing, we just saw a Pitbull fight. We've got the Pettis title fight coming up versus Archuleta. That's also on May 7th. That's the same night as Rumble Romero.
Yep.
Man, Bellator's doing big things right now, and I love it.
Yep, but that is all for our news today.
And now,
on to the recap of #UFC Vegas 24. Overall, this card, I guess a bit unspectacular.
Well, let's just put it this way. 10 fights, 8 decisions. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, which,
no decisions don't mean bad fights, per se. But there's a few sprinkled in that weren't the best.
Yeah, it is. There was some duds around here. There was some good fights, and we'll talk about those, but overall, when you have a lot of this competition going on, like you have Bellator coming out swinging with a really big card, ONE FC's truly trying to make a big splash on TNT, and then the fight that shall not be spoken about happening the same night. It's just not maybe the kind of card that you want to have happen when you have all this competition out there right now, but definitely some takeaways here. And we'll start with our prelim notables, and I'll let you go first.
Prelim notable for me, Jessica Penne, the 38-year-old strawweight, former title challenger, makes her return after nearly 4 years to the date since her last UFC fight. She battled through a bunch of USADA issues, and she had to fight to clear her name of charges and all this stuff. And she did. She got cleared of everything, but not after such a long hiatus, which sucks to see the career get delayed so significantly. She was once kind of in her athletic prime at the age of 34. Now doesn't even get to fight again until 38. But she came back last night against an undefeated Lupi Godinez, making her debut in the UFC, and looked good, man. Now, on the feet, showed some weaknesses. Lupi, shout out to her, by the way. We're going to see her around for fights to come. She looked good in the striking department, but was a little green. And the veteran expertise really showed for Penne in this one. She utilized a lot of clinch work that decisively got her the win. And it was just a feel-good story to fight through all that adversity, come back at the age of 38 and still look good, physically looked good. And we're talking about someone that literally fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk in, I think, her first or second title defense, which is years ago at this point.
True.
She hadn't even won a fight since 2014, went into that hiatus on a 3-fight losing streak. So it was just really nice seeing Penne come back, a veteran of that strawweight division. And don't be surprised that after just one win, they give her a pretty prominent name in her next matchup due to her name value in itself. So Jessica Penne, feel-good story for me. That's the prelim notable.
So I'm actually going to go with another veteran as well, this time in the middleweight division, Gerald Meerschaert.
GM3, baby.
In his previous encounter, it's been very talked about. The one-punch KO from Khamzat Chimaev. Meerschaert's kind of been one of those stepping stones for Khamzat as he's been close to approaching superstardom. But Meerschaert proven here in a matchup with Bartosz Fabinski, another name we've talked about on the podcast before, that don't forget about me. Getting his 24th submission win.
That's insane.
Technical submission with the guillotine choke 2 minutes into the fight. And with that submission win, he has the most submission finishes in UFC middleweight history with 6.
Yeah.
The guy's really showing that, look, I know he got knocked down 17 seconds by Khamzat, but he's not some scrub or bum.
Exactly.
As much as people want to try to... and you only hear this when people try to detract from Khamzat. They say he hasn't fought anybody, blah, blah, blah. Gerald Meerschaert is solid.
Oh, he's a veteran, man. Look at the guys he's fought.
And this fight, I hope, can show that a little more. I did see a lot of fighters seem to respect Gerald Meerschaert a lot. I saw a lot of fighters tweeting out in support of him. Even Jorge Masvidal. Just, I don't know, it was just interesting to see kind of the respect that Mearchart has from the other fighters.
A veteran that's been doing it for years.
You know, on a night like this where some of these prospects kind of didn't show up, at least in the most exciting of fashions, Mearchart
gets one out of only 2 finishes on the night. And he did get a $50K bonus.
Yep.
The 2 guys that got finishes got the bonus, clearly. So, for that, what that's worth. The other guy being Tony Gravely, just a quick note on him. He looked very good in that fight with Burchard.
Got the TKO over Burchak. Very disappointed at heavyweight Alexander Romanov and Juan Espino. Juan Espino, another tough season winner in the past.
Yeah, 40 years old coming into that fight.
And Romanov, undefeated prospect.
Beast, had finished every fight before
Just a very sloppy fight. And, heavyweight can get that way when you have these drawn-out decisions. But then Espino landed a nut shot in the 3rd round. Romanov not able to continue. That means it goes, since it was after...
Yeah, it's after... if it goes past 2.5 minutes of the 2nd round in a 3-round fight, whenever the fight gets stopped, the judges will score. Yeah. So, for example... This knee happened a minute and 5 seconds into the round 3. The judges had to score round 3 based on who they thought was winning that first minute.
Yeah.
And Romanov got the technical split decision victory.
And,
it was a mess.
Yeah. But overall, we'll just leave it there.
We'll leave it there. Let's get into this main card here.
Yeah, but we're going to start with a bit of a dud again because our co-main event falling out at the beginning of the show. What a mess we have on our hands here.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stephens and Drakkar Klose.
Sure to be a banger.
Sure, looking like it was going to be a banger of a fight. These guys face off, get a little too close, a little kissy action going on.
It was weird.
I only say that because Drakkar got a little... Yeah, I mean...
I was thinking of Weidman Silva.
I'm thinking of... But since they had masks on, it's kind of like Silva when he put the mask on against Vitor.
Yeah.
So, because Klose getting all... they're... a little too close for comfort. Jeremy shoved
the shit out of it.
Yeah, and apparently with the shove, Drakkar Klose got whiplash so bad he had a concussion and
like a cervical
sprain.
Yeah, something weird.
He said when he got pushed, he immediately felt his hand go numb, and like his neck felt weird. What a mess.
Yeah.
Can we just say that I think there's going to be a lot that's going to come out of this. Let's say it's not great for Jeremy.
Oh, it's definitely not a good look for Jeremy.
And considering he's already on the losing streak he's on.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even make this fight.
I was going to say it wouldn't surprise me if
he gets cut.
Got cut because of this.
Yeah, I mean, he caused this at the end of the day. Not a good look.
I mean, you could arguably, I don't know all the ramifications that could come out of something like this, but I was even thinking, I'm like, is Jeremy Stephens going to get sued?
Oh, like, I was watching, I'm like, what the hell, man? What'd you push him so hard for?
Yeah.
Like, Klose wasn't even talking trash, or his hands were behind his back. It was just an intense, close stare-off, and Jeremy wanted no part of it.
Yeah, it was definitely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I can definitely tell you probably will never see face-offs the same way ever again.
Yeah.
Because imagine if that was like a pay-per-view headline.
Oh, could you imagine, man?
Like, imagine if that was Usman Masvidal that's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And Masvidal pushed Usman, and Usman all of a sudden
sprained his neck or whatever.
Like, I mean, the UFC can't risk that kind of commodity.
So then it's like, okay, are people no longer allowed to touch at the face-offs?
Well,
do they have to stand at a certain distance?
If that needs to be made a rule, that should have been made a rule a long time ago.
Yeah, true.
Now, I get it, guys. It's very heated a lot of times, so you have guys,
those
push each other.
face-offs can make some more,
But, I mean, come on, man. It probably should have been a rule that you can't touch.
Yeah.
It just... Is it really worth it?
True. It was just.
It's just a shame because it was a very good.
Awesome.
It was supposed to be a really good fight. It was a big.
That was the co-main event.
A big opportunity for Drakkar and also for Jeremy to get back on track.
Yep.
Jeremy Stephens is kicking himself right now.
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, now you might not even get a chance to right those wrongs.
I don't think
and you got egg on your face now. I mean, did you see the memes?
Yeah, a lot of memes.
Man,
yeah, I mean, if you're a part of MMA Twitter,
Jeremy Stephens, being the guy,
he's memeable.
Talking about Conor McGregor at the press conference. He's like, I'm the hardest hitting 145er.
Yeah.
He said, when these guys hit people, he TKOs people. When I hit people, they don't fucking move.
Yeah. So one.
They're like, when I push people, they don't fucking move.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, You know, and I've always liked Jeremy Stephens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about his resume on Friday.
We talked him up Friday. Just the guy's always comes and puts on a good show, win or lose. And it's hard to defend him here.
Yeah, it was tough. Hate to see it.
But because of that, we did have a fight bumped up to the main card. That was Tracy Cortez and Justine Kish. We'll get to that in a second. Started at lightweight, though. Luis Pena and Alexander Munoz. And guess what? Fight. My fight of the night pick here.
Yeah.
Are you going to agree with that, or are you going to?
I'm no.
Okay. Split decision win for Luis Pena. 29-28 across the board, but 2 scored it for Pena, 1 scored it for Munoz. This fight was really fun.
It was a hell of a fight. Pena really showed improvements in his striking that we hadn't seen.
He showed a lot of improvements in his striking and his striking defense, for that matter.
Yeah, there were a couple moments where I got nervous with leaving his hands down and just trying to evade with his head.
He was definitely
block,
using his length a lot to just kind of lean out of the way.
Because Munoz had the power.
That's what I was going to say. It was really Munoz's power. You could tell that his shots were.
Oh. They were hurting. Especially that first round.
Pena kind of recognizing that, sticking to his strength, sticking to kind of being the guy that was doing more.
Yeah, round 3 really poured it on, too.
More output from him. You know, round 2 was neck and neck. Round 1 was very much a Munoz round. Yeah. So it really came down
round 2 was the one.
To that round 2. But Pena leaving no doubt in round 3 that he was the one that was kind of still fresh.
Still very fresh.
Munoz gassing a little bit in round 3. I had a lot of fun with this fight.
I thought we'd see more grappling, but it turned out to be
just very
great
much
stand-up war.
And, you know, Pena's very much game for that. A lot of times, I kind of failed to mention this in our preview, he tends to sort of go wherever the opponent takes the fight.
That's true.
You know, he'll strike for all 3 rounds, but he'll take it to the ground and out-grapple you for 3 rounds as well. It's he kind of really lets his opponent sort of dictate where the fight goes, and then he just makes the best of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which is a weird, I guess, I'm sure that's not how he would say he fights, but that's just the way it comes off. And Munoz is also a guy who has a great grappling background, but in here, just showing some heavy hands, and he seemed very content with just trading on the feet.
Yeah.
So you get 2 guys who we kind of both thought would prefer to stay on the ground, and you get the cancellation.
That's what happens sometimes.
But I loved this fight. I thought it was really fun. Great way to open the main card, kind of wake me back up after the prelims were a bit of a dud.
And Pena's length and height, no matter who he gets matched up with, because this is still a young guy, fought on tough a couple years back, he could very well make a splash at some point. There's still some green areas, but a couple more fights, man, and we could be seeing him fight for some rankings.
Well, I mean, can we talk about that this was his... I believe it was his 3rd split decision.
He's got a lot of split decisions. He's 5-3
This is the first one that he's been on the winning side of.
Yeah.
But being in such close fights like that shows that, for one, that he could easily still only have the one loss to Kama Worthy in his UFC career. But also, if you want to look at the detracting side, he's not levels above these guys he's fighting.
He's waiting until rounds 3 to start turning it on, but you can't do that.
Yeah,
because then you're down 2-0.
Because in round 3, he was kind of showboating and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm
he was in a flow state.
And I was sitting there kind of looking I don't know if he's winning this fight, though. I was he might be down 2-0.
Yep.
Luckily, 2 judges scored it for him. I had a lot of fun with the fight, though. It's my fight of the night pick just from pure action.
Back and forth.
Yeah. But do you have any final thoughts?
That's all I got.
So now we're going to move on to the fight that got bumped up. This was scheduled to be women's flyweight. Ended up being a catchweight. Justine missed weight?
No. Tracy Cortez missed weight by half a pound.
Okay, by half a pound. So Tracy Cortez does get the split decision win over Justine Kish. 29-28 for Tracy. 29-28 for Justine. And then 30-27 for Tracy.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't a 30-27.
Was that Chris Lee? They Chris. I did hear Chris Lee's name last night, and I went, "Oh, no."
Maybe he was there. I don't know.
He was the one that scored the Munoz Pena fight for Munoz. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Or maybe he was the one that scored Espino over Romanov. I forget, but whatever one he was on the wrong end of, and I was like, "Go figure." Go figure, Chris Lee.
Put the Joes in the judges' seats.
But what were your thoughts on this fight?
Well, I wasn't surprised that they bumped it to the main card. There's a lot of hype behind Tracy, rightfully so. She's a very good fighter, a Contender Series alum. We know how the UFC loves the Contender Series people. Mm-hmm. And she looked good. She's now on a 9-fight win streak. She's 3-0 in the UFC. Her first 2 fights were at bantamweight because they were kind of short notice bookings and just awkward opponents, so on and so forth. Flyweight is her natural weight class. I will say it's a bad look to miss weight when you call it your natural weight class. Granted, it was half a pound. Maybe she just wasn't used to cutting weight since her last 2 fights had been at bantamweight. Nevertheless, she's very strong, very physically built, as was Justine Kish, by the way. And she's very grapple heavy, and it showed in round 1. Definitely got the best of Kish in round 1. Round 2, very back and forth. I still scored that second round. This was one where round 2 was the deciding round, because round 3 I felt was clearly for Kish. That round was full 5 minutes on the feet. Cortez, being a grapple-heavy style fighter, didn't look bad necessarily on the feet. Put some good combinations together, had some power shots, but Kish did have the overall advantage in the striking. But it was those early grappling exchanges in round 1 and round 2 that I think solidified the win for Cortez. So all in all, it was a pretty good fight. It was good for them to get put on the main card. I wasn't surprised that they did this for Cortez, and we'll see how she bounces back in her next fight at flyweight. Hopefully she makes weight first and foremost.
Yeah, well said. Moving on, middleweight. This is probably going to be my biggest disappointment of the night. Not even because the person I predicted to win didn't, just as the fight as a whole, just not really living up here. Jacob Malkoun, though.
The protege.
The protege of Robert Whittaker, and he at least showed why people had high hopes for him.
Yeah.
You know, he bounces back with a win in his second UFC fight. Unanimous decision over Abdul Razak Al Hassan. 30-27 across the board. Man, really though, my bigger takeaway, I know Jacob Malkoun is now 5-1, still so young in his
25 years old. Yeah.
His professional MMA career, so young. Yet, my bigger takeaway is going to be the greenness of Abdul Razak Al Hassan and the holes.
Yeah.
Malkoun, he did what he had to do to win.
Yeah.
He avoided the power of Al
Grappled
Hassan, grappled the shit out of him, just kind of but that was the thing, he just kind of laid on top of him.
Yeah, it didn't do much.
And that's why my bigger takeaway is just Al Hassan's inability to, and this might be because of, again, him moving up a weight class.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe the technical side just failing him a bit, as he couldn't really just power out from that bottom position. What a disappointing performance for him. He's now 0-3 since he came back in 2020. It's not looking great for him right now.
It's unfortunate. And he's been in some bangers, too, those prior decisions. But then last night, it was just couldn't find the shot to land. Does he go back to 170? This is a big dude we're talking about.
I mean, this guy, he couldn't make weight the last 2 fights, and he lost both of them.
So, clearly, there are holes. I don't think he's going to, cut or anything. I don't think. We'll see what happens, but it's a guy that is very marketable with that, 10 finishes, all via knockout, all in the first round. Hopefully he can bounce back in his next fight. And for Malkoun, came out, made a statement to a certain extent, just did what he had to do, recognized where he could find the advantages, and he capitalized on them, essentially. And he rode off into the sunset with a dub. First win in the UFC, 25 years old, still young, still green, as Noah mentioned. I'm interested to see how he does in his next battle.
I am too.
And matchup-wise, what they give him.
I mean, again, this isn't the kind of performance that's necessarily going to, I guess, incite a lot of excitement in me for his what's next for him. But again, he did what he had to do to win, and ultimately he found a hole and exposed it and took advantage of it. But for Al Hassan, I mean, for a guy that's so powerful, that's so explosive, to just be neutralized so easily, it seemed at times.
Yeah.
I did not see that kind of explosion in him. Once he was on his back, it just seemed like he had nothing.
Yeah.
It's just disappointing. Co-main event.
Uh-oh.
Now, here's my happiest moment of the night. My boy, Andrei Arlovsky.
That son of a bitch.
The ageless wonder. He somehow finds a way again. Gets a unanimous decision win over Chase Sherman. 29-28 across the board. This wasn't a great fight, I'll be honest. They had its moments.
They were hitting.
They traded. But neither guy really ever getting too hurt. Arlovsky actually hurting Sherman more than I thought he would.
With the calf kicks,
yeah,
too.
the calf kicks.
Shows the evolution of his game.
This is what I alluded to Friday. Arlovsky at 42 years of age. You know, when he was heavyweight champion, he was known as the guy with the most powerful right hand, the most explosive striker in the game. But as he's gotten older, as he's had some losses pile up, as he's had some injuries pile up, he's completely evolved.
And as an all-around mixed martial artist, truthfully, has probably gotten better. When you look at all aspects, I think it's more so the power's obviously not there anymore, and he's slower. So
he would
you
probably
take some things away, you add some things.
Yeah, I mean, he would probably still lose to the champion version of himself. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely changed with the times.
Yeah.
And I fully respect that.
And to be 42 and do that is so
I always
impressive.
think back to he had a fight with Stefan Struve a couple years ago. And in that fight, I think he scored 5 takedowns.
Yeah. And
that was more than he had in his entire
career combined.
So that's why, like, I keep seeing these things out of Arlovsky. But, like, you know, he did that against Struve because that was the best way to beat Struve. But then you don't see it again from him.
Yeah.
It's like he finds these holes in his opponent's game, and he is just good enough at that kryptonite to use it, and then you'll never see it again.
That's right.
Here, he was effectively using those calf kicks. I'll tell you what, he was moving around.
Yes, he was, man.
Frustrating Sherman.
Floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee.
The final when the final 10 seconds,
he was pissed.
So angry. And Arlovsky's still...
I feel like Arlovsky knew he was up, honestly. Yeah. Granted, it was a very close fight. I thought he won as well. So
I did too. And he gets another big win here over a powerful young guy.
The damn guy's won 3 of his last 4. Only lost to Tom Aspinall. And the biggest prospect at
let's talk about the biggest shock to me. Arlovsky, even including last night's fight, in his last 17 fights...
17 fights.
Has closed as the betting underdog.
And here's the even more impressive stat in terms of Arlovsky. All 17 of those fights since 2015. This man has fought 17 times. He's fighting 3-4 times a year at 40 years old.
I'd be curious.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I would even like to know.
I'd love to know who that 18th fight
The fight is. That he was the favorite
in.
I believe it was the Frank Mir fight that he won.
And then went on the 5-fight
and then
losing
he lost
streak.
to Stipe.
Yeah, that was tough.
So,
this
is just a guy who, look, he's not, ever going to be fighting for a belt again.
Yeah, it's not like he's in the same shoes as a Glover Teixeira.
Yeah.
But still winning.
For a guy that so many people count out, they go, why is this guy still kept around? That's why. Chase Sherman bouncing back big in his second run in the UFC, runs into the old man in Arlovsky and gets neutralized.
Yeah.
It's what Arlovsky does best at this point.
Sherman now 3-6 in the UFC. Yeah. Tough scenes for him. Arlovsky gets his 20th victory inside the octagon. I think we pair him up with a little heavyweight legend fight next for shits and giggles.
And who might that be?
Alexei Oleinik.
Yep. I mean, that just seems like the best kind of...
Combined, these guys have like 170 fights together.
Yeah.
Literally, though. Alexei's had 80 fights almost. Arlovsky's now at 53. And they've never fought.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not?
That's a good way to kind of send both of them out the door, or who knows? These guys.
I will say, in terms of just all-around skill, still at their age, Arlovsky definitely still has some more pep in his step. He said last night in his post-fight presser, he doesn't want a couple more fights. He said a couple more years.
Yeah.
And at his pace, that's 10 more.
That's why it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him fight Oleinik. He seems very comfortable being that betting underdog.
Yeah.
And fighting.
Give me the young guys.
That seems to be what he's striving in right now. I know it doesn't always work out for him like the Aspinall fight, but more often than not, it kind of has been lately.
And it's not like, granted they are young prospects, they're still tough fights. I mean, Sherman, 3-6 in the UFC, but he has 15 wins, 14 of them via finish. I mean, this guy's a
heavy
killer.
striker.
Yeah, and then Felipe Lins was another fight that he won before the Aspinall fight. So these guys are good that he's beating.
He's been very close in a couple of those decisions that went the other way.
Even the one with Sakai,
Augusto Sakai. Those are both fights I thought he won. I know I'm a little biased. I'm a big Arlovsky.
But you look, I mean, Sakai's number 9, So what a feel-good story. A couple feel-goods last night.
I was very happy that Arlovsky could get that win. Man, he was in the co-main event. That's kind of nice.
Turning it back a ways for that.
Now we move on to the main event of the evening.
Come on now.
Robert Whittaker gets the unanimous decision over Kelvin Gastelum, 50-45 on all three judges' scorecards.
Masterclass.
It was a masterclass performance. This is another contender for Performance of the Year. I don't know if he'll be able to beat Max Holloway, but I mean, come on. I mean, the best we've seen Robert Whittaker look inside the octagon.
I mean, maybe ever. Yeah, that good.
Because Kelvin Gastelum, show him some respect here, was completely game.
Oh, yeah, man.
And even looked good. Round one, I think the commentators were not giving Kelvin enough credit in round one. I was going to say something about that to you.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, I'll slow it down, see how the rest of the fight goes. After that, Robert started to pull away a little bit more. But,
it was crazy, man.
Early on, though, Kelvin was landing some big shots. And, Kelvin looked for him anyways, he's always been kind of a pudgy guy.
Yeah, he looked good physically.
He actually looked pretty fit for being the guy that the stature.
And a lot of it probably because he was so active. Just had the fight with Heinisch, and now he's back in. And I wouldn't doubt. I mean, he took some damage, but he'll be. I'd like an active Kelvin Gastelum to right the wrongs here. And for Whittaker, again, a masterclass striking clinic. His combos, that left hook to right high kick that he does. You don't even see it coming. You don't see a single shot that Robert throws.
You're completely right. Everybody's talked about it. Everybody acknowledges that he has that, and yet nobody seems to be able to stop it.
Last night, he really looked like a wonder boy in terms of his hands just hanging low, boom, boom, out of nowhere. You don't even see him coming, and still gets his hands up quick enough to defend shots. Unbelievable performance. He just turned 30 years old. I talked about this all week leading into it. And Kelvin's still only 29. Both these guys have accomplished so much already. I can't wait to see what else they can do. But for Whittaker, the Reaper 2.0, he can't be denied any longer.
No, it's time for him and Adesanya to meet again. I know that the first encounter went very one way for Adesanya, but the Robert we've seen since then, he looks better. He looks like he's cleaned up a lot of these. I don't even want to call them holes in his game, but they were just the I guess the weaknesses, if you want to call it that, or
patched up.
The paths to victory for Adesanya to take advantage of. He seems to have completely rid those away, and has replenished his skill set with completely different arsenal of weapons.
I feel as if a second fight between Whittaker and Adesanya would be similar to the Whittaker-Till stylistic type matchup here.
I completely agree. I think that a second fight, I think it wouldn't be so easy to pick this time around.
Yeah, I mean, he just can't be denied anymore. There have been plenty of people that have gotten rematches for the title they lost without doing much less, if not anything.
Well, there's one happening next weekend. So.
Yes, very true. But then you look at Whittaker's had to do to get his title shot back. Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum.
And it was supposed to be Paulo Costa. Let's not forget.
I mean, absolutely crazy.
And it's obvious to me that especially because Adesanya just lost to the light heavyweight.
Yeah, we're plenty of removed from that first.
So now Adesanya is strictly a middleweight right now.
Yeah, and we've seen Adesanya go on to have the Romero fight, and then he had the fight with.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying he lost to he tried to go big and try to become champ. And obviously, if he would have beat Blachowicz, it would have become very difficult for Robert Whittaker to stake his claim, because that's what happens when these guys become champs. They kind of hold up two divisions. And then if he would have beat Blachowicz, then he would have been knocking on John Jones' door.
For heavyweight.
So he lost the fight to Blachowicz. He is now he's only the middleweight champion. It's time for him to keep going.
Yes.
And I understand that for him, it's probably frustrating that a lot of these matchups are rematches for him. But Robert Whittaker has done everything that so many contenders before him would be pissed or refuse to do, and fight 3 times after being a guy who...
Yeah.
I know he doesn't technically have any title defenses to his name, but that wasn't his fault. He held the belt for nearly 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Guy who really does deserve.
And all 3 guys were ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
So it has to happen. Hopefully by the end of this year. Hopefully in another sold out arena down there in Australia would be quite incredible.
Now for Kelvin, being that he stepped up big here and took this fight on short notice and looked really good in it. I'm actually not going to move him back here. You know, he was number 8 coming in, put up a good fight against the number 1 guy in the division. I'm giving him number 4, Jared Cannonier, next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really, you know, you could argue that with the loss he needs to fight backwards, but this is a guy who just looked really good in his previous fight before the Whittaker one with Ian Heinisch. Maybe you risked a little something by throwing him up there, but I think Kelvin's good enough to fight the best of the best in this division.
It's an interesting stylistic fight.
It is. And, you know, honestly, a lot of the guys around him that might be more realistic number-wise don't interest me as much, or he's already fought them.
Yeah. I'm going to go quote-unquote more realistic. Not that I think that fight's unrealistic, but I think he should just fight the winner of Weidman Hall, Uriah Hall, coming up this weekend at 261. Either guy that would win would be a rematch for Kelvin. If it were Uriah, it'd be the rematch of the Tough Finals, which I think would be kind of cool, nostalgic. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong. You're not punishing him.
Weidman does have a win over him.
Yeah, Weidman has a win over him, so that would be cool. So I'm going to go with that option, and I don't hate yours at all. I'm just ready to see Jared get back in with whoever.
That's why I was just looking at the top of the heap. I'm like, Jared's coming off a loss. He's going to have to fight someone a little bit further down.
Yeah.
You got Hermanson fighting Shabazian. Like, Darren Till's probably going to fight. I mean, he's got Brunson, Vittori, Costa all in there. So
yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but that's what I'm going to go with. Really, shout out to Kelvin, shout out to Rob. They put up a great main event.
Oh, that was my fight of the night. Sorry.
It was your fight of the night pick. I was very close to being mine.
It was more so one-sided, but there were moments.
I definitely just sided more with the, 3 rounds of really good action. Whittaker Gastelum had its moments. Started off really strong. I think by the end, though, it just became
Whittaker
just kept pulling away. Yeah. But both guys were game here, so shout out to them for putting up a good main event. The best main event across combat sports that happened on this night.
Yep, not up for debate.
And that's pretty much it for hashtag UFC Vegas 24.
There it is.
So as for the rest of the week,
another 3-episode week.
Wednesday got a fun one for you guys. This one's a little bit extra special. We're just going to be looking back on the history of 3 title fight cards in the UFC. There is 7 of them.
Yeah, soon to be 8.
Yep, soon to be 8. This is obviously happening because Saturday we have UFC 261, another 3 title fight card. It just seems appropriate to kind of... We're really just going to be digging into kind of who was in these fights.
Yeah. We're not focusing on the whole card.
No, anything maybe interesting about the event, but mostly like, did these fights live up? How many new champions did we get? Just see what we can kind of find here and hopefully get us more excited and, you know, maybe get some fun predictions going.
Because Friday we have an absolute banger. And
that's the preview.
Yes.
For UFC 261 with those 3 title fights. Go ahead and list them off.
Listen. Masvidal Usman 2. The people's main event. Weili, or actually, they've been switching it back. Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas for the women's strawweight title, and then Valentina Shevchenko in what will potentially be her toughest test at flyweight against Jessica Andrade. Plus, you got Raya Hall, Chris Weidman. Plus, you got Jimmy Crute and Anthony Smith.
We might even have some prelim fights we got to talk about.
This is true.
We'll see.
We'll see you then. Well, actually, we'll see you Wednesday first.
Yeah, but until then, Dominic, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Twitter, Instagram, at DSlee14. Find the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJ_MMA. I'm just kidding. Podcast.
And as for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram, at NTBaker_, you'll be taken to our link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast. It's all on there, baby.
All on there.
And there's a couple links for the Anchor page. First, leaving a voice message. If you have a thought about an upcoming fight, a news story, if you just want to say hi or tell us we're a piece of shit, you got 60 seconds to do it there. And there's another link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month. All that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast, whether it be audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, You can find all that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_. But with that, we're out, and we'll see y'all on Wednesday.